I heard you on Joe's podcast talking about the binders, which is basically like a corset to flatten the breasts in a young person. And I heard you talk about, okay, they don't even need a therapist's intervention or their thoughts on having breasts removed. And I thought to myself, okay, why is that? I guess maybe if you're getting your breasts removed, if you have a history of breast cancer in the family, okay, that sort of makes sense. But surely there has to be some sort of nuance to that subject. You have to be able to go, okay, well, why do you want to get it done? Is it for a medical reason or is it for this particular psychological reason? Which brings me to this. And I don't think that a lot of people talk about the mental illness side of gender dysphoria, and you are not allowed to say that being transgender is a mental illness. And I'm not saying that it's a mental illness because being a mental, saying, I know I'm freaking out with this, but I'm really trying to make this point because I don't want an article written about me. I've had enough of that over the last couple of months. Anyway, the saying being transgender is a mental illness is a horrible thing to say because mental illness is something that is so looked down upon, if you will. I am someone who, as I said, had panic attacks. That's a mental illness. I don't think it is as bad of a situation as people would like come out and say that if you have a mental illness, it's a very bad thing and it's something negative to say about someone else. But if you believe that you are, you wake up in the morning and you believe that you're German, but you were born in America, you've never met a German person in your life, or you believe that your legs don't belong to you and you try to get them removed, that is seen as a mental illness, but changing your gender isn't. Do you think this is a mental illness, or is it something? Is it just, are you just not allowed to say that because it seems like you're looking down on someone or being rude to them, or is it just not the case at all? I'm genuinely curious.
So the activists, the ones who go hysterical about these issues, they want to have it both ways because they insist it's not a mental illness, but also they like that insurance covers it because it is a mental illness in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. So because it's classified as a mental illness in America, for whatever that means, meaning, it's in the DSM, it's a category, and that's why, insurance will pay for it, pay for these various surgeries. So, people can get hung up on whether that is stigmatizing or not, but I don't think it should be stigmatizing to say that you have any kind of illness. That's silly. I mean, I think that unfortunately, there are stigmas, but they really shouldn't exist because, we should, or at least we should learn to rise above them. How about that?
Yeah. I know I waffled on there for about 45 seconds too long, but I'm trying to get around that point where people can't go in hard after you for being a bigot. But I wanted to cover what.
Well,
Sorry, go on.
if you're worried about people going after you for being a bigot, someone will probably go after you. But
Oh yeah.
I think what we should worry about is whether we really are bigots, not whether someone will say we are, because people say all kinds of stupid things. And the important thing really is whether we are being bigoted. And I think it's very clear that worrying about a mental health issue facing teenage girls is not a bigoted thing to do.
It's a very good point. And I mean, I've made a lot of videos in the past on transgender issues, whether it happens to be transgender athletes, which I'm very, to me, it's obvious. You don't want someone who's lived 30 years as a man to go up against women in a sport, particularly a combat sport or a very physical sport. That just sort of makes sense to me. But you go out and say that on the internet, you get absolutely, like most people agree with you, but the vocal minority come after you very hard with those type of things. And I've been called everything from transphobic, homophobic, just because of these sort of these beliefs or these thoughts, or maybe not even the beliefs, but the conversation. Like you can't have the conversation, which is crazy.
Well, you can't have the conversation because it's not just obvious to you that it's unsafe for women to participate in, say, rugby with men. It's obvious to everyone. So if the activists ever allow a calm and sober conversation, they will lose because it is so obvious that is incredibly dangerous for women. So they have to keep everything ad hominem and at a fever pitch in order to prevent the conversation ever from occurring at all.
Does this just go back to belonging to something? People desperately trying to find something to belong to, and whether it is becoming transgender or even just finding a political party that you throw all of your beliefs behind?
think there are a lot of factors at play. I think that people are in tremendous pain today. There's a tremendous amount of psychological pain afflicting our young people, specifically, Gen Z. You see very, very high levels, so those kids born in 1995 and after. You see very, very high levels of suicidal ideation, depression, anxiety, and whatnot. I think they're in genuine pain. I think that they spend way too much time on the internet and way too little time with each other. So they don't comfort each other in the same ways, and they don't gain comfort for themselves in the same ways. They also don't come to learn about themselves the way you do when you're alone riding your bike. They're always on the internet, so they're always diverting their attention from self-reflection or reflection even with a friend. They're engaged in a lot of really unhealthy behaviors. And so there really isn't a way to get out of this constant loop of thinking about themselves all the time, which is what they're sitting at home and doing.
It is because I have younger brothers. I'm 27 and they're all under 20, and I see them and I hear about things that have happened to their school and young people, and it does concern me for someone who's at the age where I may have children in the next couple of years. Like, that is concerning to see that so many people feel so alone, even though they're more connected than ever. And I wonder if, like, having constant stimulus in your ears, whether you're listening to podcasts or you're watching YouTube videos, and not having that moment of reflection or even reading, reading a novel, coming up with ideas of how someone looks in your own mind, something as simple as that, being alone in nature, these type of things that kids just don't seem to be doing. And they find that they need to toe the party line. They need to believe a certain thing. They're being taught these things in school that maybe they don't believe in. I mean, it's a scary time to be a kid, particularly, as this attack on the on the normal ideas, the general consensus of the population. As that continues, I mean, I don't know where it ends, but it certainly is damaging and terrifying for young people. But
It is. It's very scary. I mean, remember that in school, they have to reach the right opinion.
Yes.
They know the conclusion. They don't, it's so anti-intellectual. The journey is not allowed. What they must know is the destination. They all have to agree on that. And it's very scary. And, we're living in a time where the answer is all that matters. It doesn't matter how you get there or even if it's right, but you must all say it. And that's true with gender. That's what's allowed us to say such ridiculous things like a girl is really a boy if she says so. I mean, when you talk to older people who transition, what we used to call transsexuals, they never pretended they were always male or female. They would never say that. I mean, I talk to them. What they will say is, I grew up as a boy, but I'm now most comfortable presenting as a woman. This made, but they don't pretend their childhoods didn't happen.
Yeah.